What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Anthony here with Reflection Concept, reflectionconcept.com. Apologize for missing you last week. I've been trying to kind of put these out on Tuesdays, give or take. Obviously schedule dependent, and I will say this, schedule got away from me last week. I had my friend Lou Ross, who I've alluded to many times in these 4 episodes, so not that many times really. We started our recording project here in my studio, which is also my dining room that contains nothing of a dining room. And now it has a massive drum set in it with mics right over here. Actually, yeah, you can see the snare right here. So yeah, Lou came over and we're embarking upon a recording project of the Pecora Ross duo, which is just us playing bass, playing drums, doing some ambient, soundscapey, improvisational, intense, delicate, a little bit of everything. So it really did get away from me. And I've alluded to this as well in these episodes that it's hard for me to probably put it into words, and I'm by no means any creative guru or scheduling guru or time management guru. I don't even know how to put it. It's really, really difficult to find time to hit record on the camera, and I can find every reason a lot of times to not do it. I've referenced Stephen Pressfield's War on Art book, and that's, you know, the antagonist in that book is resistance. And there's so many ways that we manufacture it. And God, even tonight, I think every time I've recorded one of these, 5 minutes before hitting the record button, I've convinced myself to do something else. And it's fun every time that I do it. So it's like, I don't understand. It's kind of like going to the gym. You can you could convince yourself so many ways to not go to the gym. But every time you go to the gym, barring blowing a knee out or some major injury, you feel better about it every single time. We can come up with so many reasons to not do the thing that we know we should probably be doing, and the thing that's going to make us feel better, or just get the content out there in this case. And it's tough. So I didn't get to it last week. I just lost time and was busy doing other things. So it wasn't just like sitting around doing nothing, and practicing for the 90s band thing. So I was like, I got this big book of tunes to get through on that. But at the end of the episode 2 weeks ago, right? What did it mean? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. I told you that I would talk more and show more about a studio session at a house, not a real studio, that I did last year. What was it? It would have been last April. God, that's so crazy that it was that long ago. And this music is just getting out now. It's so weird to think about. But last April was in Ney, Ohio with really good friends, ex-bandmates, Ryan Meals, Kent English, John Check. So John's coming from Brooklyn. We were at Kent's house in Ney, Ohio, which is a little bit east, about an hour or so east of Indianapolis. And Ryan and myself were from Pittsburgh. And drummer from, I don't think, I could be wrong on this, from the Indianapolis area, Brian Nellums, who I'd never met before, and we'll get more into that. Got together at Kent's house to record a record, and we didn't have a band name, we didn't have any titles or anything, and it ended up being the Ney Players from Ney, Ohio, and the record was called Ney Sayin, which I really dig, and I was able to do the artwork for it, and I captured kind of like it made me think of like, and the music's kind of like this sort of metersy, groove-oriented thing. So like the Ney Players, Ney Sayin, Sayin apostrophe, like Sayin, not with the G on the end. It just looked cool. It just all kind of fit together, and it kind of made sense, and it gave me a good direction visually for it too, which was kind of cool. So the way that started was Kent got a Hammond, super nice. And I guess Ryan was out at Kent's They could tell the story better than I could, but this is my perspective of it. And we should start a band. And that was that simple. And it ended up happening. And we made a really good record that's out on streaming everywhere. So Apple Music, Spotify, I guess that's the big two. But anywhere that you find your streaming music, you can check it out. And we're going to listen to some of that here. As well, if you go to reflectionconcept.com, you can pre-order vinyl, which should be here like end of April. We're able to get this pressed to vinyl, 45 RPM. It's going to kill. It's going to sound so good on vinyl. I mean, I can't wait for you guys to hear this. The music's really, really good. I'm very, very proud of it. Very groove oriented. Takes me back to kind of the roots of my bass playing and my bass love. Sorry if my eyes keep tracking over this way. I keep looking at my little monitor screen to make sure my autofocus is still dialed in, which it is. But nonetheless, check that music out. And again, we're going to go through some of it. So this episode of the podcast is a little bit different because I had some video footage from that trip that I filmed. And I started splicing it up into kind of like a montage, sort of. I wouldn't call it a promo video at all. But I just kind of started putting it into like a documentary style thing. I didn't really quite have enough footage interview wise and like talking head wise, like what I'm doing here, to make that work. So I said, you know what, why don't I just make this part of the Reflection Concept podcast thing? We'll just treat this as an episode, but this would be a really good one for you to kind of watch more than just listen to if you've just been listening to this stuff. So I would encourage you to do so because there's some cool footage of that stuff. So we're going to kind of jump between this shot here and some of the documentary style footage. So I gave you brief background on kind of how the Nay Players thing came to be. And we had like we exchanged some tunes in like a Google Drive folder. And we did like one Skype meeting, just like the most of the band. And Dave Jameson, who was the drummer with Ryan and I in the Boogie Hustlers back in the day here in the Pittsburgh area, as well as the drummer for John Check's band that I was a later part of. I think that started as an organ trio. Then I came in on bass. But Dave was supposed to do the drums, and then like scheduling conflicts happened. And I mean, this thing almost didn't happen for so many reasons, which I'll get into here shortly. But anyway, we had like a Skype call and kind of figured out the things, figured out the gear. Ryan was going to take his recording rig with like an Apollo 8, rack mount 8, whatever the hell that's called. And we're going to do it at Kent's house, Hammond. You know, I was going to take my Princeton for John to use, who was coming from Brooklyn. He was going to fly into Pittsburgh, drive with me out to Nay, Ohio. That ended up not happening. So a year, that was the end of 2023. And then I think Ryan, myself, and Kent got together at Ryan's house out in Irwin, Pennsylvania, a little bit like southeast of the city, or east of the city, whatever. And we had a rehearsal with like a fill-in drummer. With that added to the kind of the chaos, as we didn't really know the tunes. The drummer was just like there to keep time. And that was cool. That was fine. I don't know that it was all that necessary. I think we might have been more productive just working through it with the three of us and just keeping time. It was just kind of one less person to inform. Nonetheless, it was super beneficial in the long run. So everything ended up fine. So we did a rehearsal for it. And then like 2 weeks before the date, right? My girlfriend's grandfather got really sick. Ryan's grandmother, I believe, got really sick. And both ended up, unfortunately, passing away like pretty close to the date. And everything was in flux. And then I got really sick, like just really bad cold, flu, like 3 days out. So dealing with like the family stuff on two different fronts. And getting sick is like, dude, this is all up in the air. So John ended up going out with Ryan. We ended up being able to do it. And like the families everything was cool on that front. It was like, yeah, go do it. We'll handle everything whenever we get back. And the timing just worked out that way. So no one had to like be away at a really bad spot. Everything worked out from that front. And then it was so John flies in from New York to Pittsburgh, Ryan picks him up, goes out with Ryan. I go by myself just not to get anybody sick. And I am like pumping vitamin C, zinc, oil of oregano, any homeopathic thing and medicine. Like I was doubling it up, doing whatever I could to just not let this sickness really get me. I was supposed to stay at Kent's house. I ended up getting a hotel, which ended up being a blessing there because just space wise, it makes more sense. And I like space. Anyone that knows me knows I'm very, very, lack of a better term, sensitive about just having some private time and like away from people. The older I get, the more that is, and it's healthy for me, and I recognize that. And so I do my best to make sure I get that time. So like the close quarters thing just doesn't really work for me. So ended up working out very well for my own mental side of things because, I as the older I get, the better I function. Just again, having just some private time and some alone time, some decompression time from something like that. So it ends up happening, and I documented a lot of it, but not all of it. So again, it felt a little bit incomplete with some of the footage that I had. And I know other guys had footage of us playing. That really wasn't what I was missing. It was more like some of this, like giving some of the background on it. So I figured this was the best way to present it out to you. We're going to jump over to some of that footage right now that I have, and we'll catch back up in a second.
The only thing that's changed here is just the opening away from what was recorded when we did the thing. Is that entry?
We all hit that.
We can all hit that. And then
And just when you think you loaded everything out, you forget the most important thing.
through that F minor, E minor. So you'll get that whole B section. And then we're going to come back to the right there.
Meals takes the solo.
Meals takes the head
solo. You want this? Yeah.
Hey, don't worry about
it. Just keep it, just sorry, right back.
Keep going. 2, 3, and
All right, so trip out there was relatively easy. Apple Music was just giving me banger after banger for like a 2-hour stretch. I remember like just getting a little bit north of Pittsburgh, like midway through Ohio, it was just like one after another awesome tune on there until I had to start hitting skip. It's always up and down when you're shuffling on whatever your streaming device is. You could hear it in my voice too, and I had to go back into my house for the water. I was under the weather. I was really, really fighting some like upper nasal, upper respiratory kind of thing going on. Ended up being kind of fine for the trip. So that tune that we kind of stopped at, right? That's a tune called Choices by Kent English. And that was one of the first tunes that at least that I had listened to on the Google Drive kind of collection point for all of our tunes. And I really, really liked it. It set the vibe. I was like, oh, this is cool. This has that, it's got that funk kind of groove thing going on, that gospel-y kind of thing going on. And it was cool. And, I don't have the demos. I should have had the demos for that queued up. But, when you get with the band, things change, feels change. You start talking through everything. You kind of get that when everyone's in the same room together. And you could see in that footage, like, we're all just hanging in the room together. There's Mike Bleed. Ed Renz on sax was all the way in the other room. We were like isolating things best we could, but I was right next to the drums. I ran a DI from my amp, and I had a Lewitt 440 Pure on my bass cab, which thank God it was there because we ended up using it. Something funky happened with the DI at some point. Basses that I took, Empire 58P, had rounds on it at the time, my Olympic White, which now has low tension flats on it. My Castadosa, short scale conchers, and then a bass I no longer have was just a straight custom shop 58P that had flats on it. That was the one I thought I would use the most. I wanted to use the Castadosa the most because that was the newest thing, and it's such a beautiful instrument. But the rounds on the Empire 58 ended up being the guy. It cut enough. It gave me everything I wanted just right on the spot. So I played that the entire thing, my Olympic White Empire 58P with, I believe it had Labella RX nickels on it, 45 to 105. Pretty straightforward. Now, we took a little break on that clip because the next thing I want to show you is a very important part of the picture to me, and of one of the coolest things that can happen with music, right? I love this so much. So as I mentioned, Dave Jameson was supposed to be the drummer on the session. Scheduling conflicts happened, didn't work out. Dave and I played forever together in a band called the Boogie Hustlers and in a band called the Mandrake Project. One was super funky, super groove oriented. The other one was very not even experimental. It was like almost like prog rocky, Crimson-esque. It was a great band. Both bands were great, but very, very different. So Dave and I have played a lot of different styles of music together. Would have been an instant link right away. I know his feel. He knows mine. We negotiate. We negotiate well. We have good conversations as a rhythm section. So when I didn't know Brian Nellums at all. Kent had said that he got him and that he was excited about it. I didn't look up anything on him. He said he was great. Cool. All right. No problem. Well, you're always questioning if you're going to link up with a drummer as a bass player, as I'm sure a drummer would when they don't know the bass player. And this is where music is so beautiful. This is where there's no other way to say it. When a lockup is that quick with a drummer, it's the best. And I always have said this since Nels is what they called him. So by proxy, I call him. Played 4 beats and I was like, oh, we're good. This is going to kill. And we were in lockstep the entire session. Just an absolute joy to play music with Brian Nellums, man. His feel is perfect for me. I felt like my feel was perfect for him. We listened the right amount. We knew when and when not to listen. I say that term again, negotiating, especially on the fly. That's what music, that's especially what rhythm is. A rhythm section is. You're negotiating who's driving the bus, who's placing things where does it all make sense? Man, we didn't even have, for me, I didn't even have to think about it. It was like, it just felt like we had played together forever. So that being said, this next clip, this was like one of my favorite moments of the entire weekend of playing music. So we're getting into this outro section of choices, and I think we had obviously done some run-throughs at that point, but not that many. I mean, everything that made the record, other than my tune, which we'll get into in a second, or a few minutes, went pretty easy. I don't know, 5-6 takes, maybe more. I don't know. Maybe I can't remember it that well, but nothing seemed really, really difficult for us. And a lot of that was just, again, from a rhythm section perspective, like Brian and I were just locked in right away. So getting into this outro section of choices, we had this, like the first 8 bars of it. At some point, there was this, like, whether it was an accident or an intentional thing, we had this little feel shift that was so cool to me. And then we like snap back into the regular rhythm of the tune. And we just kind of push things and twist things around just for like 8 bars to begin the outro section of it. And it's, to me, it exemplifies exactly what Nels and I were kind of doing and the way we were vibing off each other. Check this out.
But I actually hit the right note.
So that's choices. Came out great. Love the way that happened. So the next tune that we're going to talk about is my tune, my contribution to the record. And those guys decided to have it be the first track on the record, which was like, I'm flattered that happened. Which is weird though, because it's like the only tune, it's the most different tune on the record. It's a little bit more atmospheric. It's more of a vibe. And I think in some of these clips I have, you'll hear me say, like, I think Ryan says something like, this is the hardest tune, like in air quotes. It just wasn't, I don't know, it just had a very, very different thing. So I was kind of flattered and shocked that they decided to have that open the record up. But nonetheless, it was cool. So interesting part about this, though, this is where music is beautiful and frustrating, and you really have to have an open mind. And, every tune's its own thing. There's no one way to write a tune. There's no one way to finish a tune. This is a perfect example of it. I go back to talking about that Google Drive folder that we had all the music in it. And everyone started dumping tunes in that. And I had written this tune at my girlfriend Valerie's house on my MacBook Air. And I played all the keys on the typing keyboard. And it came together like really kind of easy. So the drum track was like Logic session drummer, keys were me, guitar was me, and bass was me. And I just kind of like chopped up things and arranged it to make the drums feel a little bit more human. Like, even though like the Logic session stuff's cool, and for scratch demos, like it's very, it's great because it's fast. You know what I mean? It's very efficient. So it's funny though, because that was the most complete tune that we had, because I had like sent a full demo over to it and like done. All the parts were there. I didn't want anyone to play those specific parts, but it was like, look, it's arranged, And like some of the other tunes that were in there were like relatively loose, short ideas that were going to be expanded, so on and so forth. But my tune ended up being the most difficult one. It just needed, go back to that communal thing, it needed all of our voices to kind of be present on it, where it only had my voice. And that was my voice playing guitar and keys, which I'm not good at all on. I have that demo pulled up. Let's give a listen to this and listen to how different this tune ended up being. Check this out. That's a Logic session drummer there. Don't know his name, didn't pay him. Like the feel, it's cool. I remember when I wrote this, I was like really vibing to it. That's me playing keys on an Apple keyboard. And I think that guitar is my Paoletti Jazzmaster. The P90 and a humbucker in it. This is riveting, I'm sure. I don't know if I did the bass the same day. I don't think I did. I might have came home and done that on this computer. Or no, I didn't own this computer at the time, so I would have done it all on my MacBook. My Air. So that melody line stayed, obviously. And then B section here. My take at a guitar solo. Look how the bass doesn't come in on the one either. That becomes an important factor. Love that little bass run there. It's like comes in on the two. And then a little drum solo here. So I was like, oh, I don't know Nels. I bet he can solo. So I had this little ostinato. And then this little line. I'll stop that there, right? So then we get to the head of the tune. I always do this every time I think of the head, because when you're on a bandstand, here, let everyone know, like, we're going to the end. Head. So that was the vibe, right? That was the vibe of the tune from the demo. And now, let's check out some of the footage and see where this went to. Very, very interesting. How I probably don't have enough footage to show you how this all really progressed, but check this out. Establishing that, I'm still having trouble just personally, I'm not sure if anyone else is feeling weird about it, establishing into Ryan's solo, like with that F to me. Ooh.
You just hit a big chord.
No, I might.
Yeah, I won't do kick drum at the beginning, I'll just kind of do some.
What's that sound like? So that's coming out of the melody. Can we do a melody into Ryan's section real quick just to hear if that's like cumbersome or
2, 3.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot better.
All right.
Can you just do whole notes?
Hold it on it? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, at the
I did
beginning.
play it for the first one, and I thought it was a little weird.
No,
Okay, I'll
just do whole
the F
notes.
and the E. Got it.
Whole notes, and then the second time around, just kind
Let's
of
start
keep
bringing in
building.
some-
Yeah,
I got you.
yeah,
All right, let's do it.
yeah,
That
yeah.
establishes his solo so much better.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Do you want me to come with that chord too, on the one? Was that too much?
I don't know. What do
Is
you?
that too much in the same register?
I would play a little sparser if you could. Now, and then maybe that's just because the amp is right here. So.
Okay, I'll just.
Yeah, maybe the same way I am. I'm just playing like a whole note there, like super sparse. Okay. So I'm just saying,
That's
like,
certainly the right chord. It's just you
I'm not
know.
gonna do
Yeah,
that.
just let
Or
that
play it
breathe.
lower.
Yeah.
He's playing the same register as you. To start out, typically, right?
I'll play it down here.
start that over. I'm sorry.
I thought we all realized we were going right there, like changing there.
Yeah, no, I waited too long to establish some more
Yeah, no,
bass
it's
stuff
cool.
going.
It's all
Let's
good.
just try that
It's
again.
hard for that.
Ryan, that solo
I'm
was
sorry.
dope.
That was
Word.
It was dope.
It was dope. All right, let's do it. Okay, back into it. Let's do it.
When we're going back into that section though, can you just cue, like when you're done?
Yeah, I thought we just had it. You know, honestly.
I saw where you were going, but yeah,
I wasn't sure.
Like that.
Were we at the drum solo?
yeah.
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 Okay.
I thought so, but then I really didn't look up in time.
No,
You're
and
fine.
here's the thing. I waited. I was holding whole notes
Too long.
2 bars longer than I wanted to, so
Yeah.
it felt like we weren't there yet. All
Yeah,
right, we got it.
All right.
I noticed my.
This might be the hardest tune here.
For real.
Once we get this
It
on
is
the
a
way.
vibe. Vibes are
Yeah.
tough sometimes.
Yeah.
No, this is cool. We
We're
should
almost
look
at
at
this.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is
We're
great.
so close.
Hold on, let me just.
Yeah.
Something here.
So you can kind of see a fair amount of the evolution of how that tune went from the demo version, some twists and turns, and a lot of talking through that. It really took everyone to get their own vibe to it. But it had already changed so much from the demo. And in that process, you know, as the songwriter, you're second guessing everything. You're like, are we going too far down these divergent paths from my original statement? And is it going to lead to something that's not as good as I had hoped? You know, there's always a chance that can happen when you start deviating from things. You're like, the fork in the road is like, which way is right? You know what I mean? Which way is correct? Nels had, Brian, the drummer, had awesome input as far as some of the feel stuff that really helped, as well as flipping that ostinato for the end under his solo section, which cool. Like if you feel comfortable playing under a form or over a form, however you want to look at that, let us know. And then we got rid of that little unison line. Myself and John Check were playing it, and we were struggling to nail it. I would think it was tough, and it was unnecessary. Again, in the demo, it fit, but that was just me playing it. It was a little bit easier. In the communal thing, knowing where to strip things away, what to add, what not to touch. And then that B section thing was just like, because I didn't play on the one, I didn't play that F on the one on the recording, which kind of changed my flow of my bass line. And I really struggled there because I was like, oh, on the fly, I have to invent a new bass line to go under someone's solo. It's not just like inventing a new groove. It's like I need to invent something that fits, that I like and I'm happy with because it's my tune. I want to like my part, but I also want to be able to be supportive in these spacey kind of solo things. And I didn't think of that tune, that part of the tune, as open as it became, but it just worked out that way. So having the awareness to trust other people in that environment, and having the ability to hopefully see clearly where something's going, And we ended up having a really, really great tune. So here is the not final take. That is on the record. I don't have a recording of that to sync up, but this would be the second to last take that we did, that I just have some GoPro footage of and GoPro audio. I also posted this over on my Instagram last week. And it's cool. And I know Nels didn't love his solo in this, and he ended up playing a solo without the snares on the snare, so open snare. And I think it was one of the cymbal hits. If you listen to it, I think I know where it's at. I know he didn't love this solo, so sorry, Nels, for putting this out there, but I think the take is cool to kind of give a nice glimpse into where we worked this tune to, and kind of encapsulates and I just think I think this is a cool version of the tune to show where it went from the demo version all the way to almost our finished product. So check out the tune as a whole here. Future in 84, the opening track from Nay Players, Nay Sayin. All right, there you have it. My contribution to the record, Future in 84. Beyond happy that it made the cut, and humbled that those guys chose to have that be the first thing that you hear. That's the first track on the record if you stream it or if you buy the vinyl, which is available for pre-order right now on reflectionconcept.com. Should be shipping out late April. Man, I just like going back and listening to it and seeing the evolution of it it really is the vibe of the weekend. We all worked really, really hard together to make that all work. And we also worked really hard separately, going over tunes in our own time. And then, I didn't choose to make that the first track. I had nothing to do with that. I kind of stepped away from the production side of things. I offered a little bit of input on arrangement the day of, as the others did to that tune. But after that, I just wanted my bass to sound good and gave a little bit of input on the sonic side of things. I think I have a good ear for mixing, but I didn't want to be involved in that process. I took over art direction at that point, did all the cover art, like the sleeve art for the vinyl. The digital release was pretty straightforward. You just need like that front cover, but front and back cover for the vinyl, and like the little circle sticker on the record itself. And had a little bit of input from those guys, a little bit of direction. I know Ryan provided some copy for me. But we all kind of stayed in our lanes on that type of thing. And that it's great when you trust other people. I really do prefer to operate that way. Again, I'll say this, as we get older, everyone's pretty good at the things that they choose to do. And we're good at that at Empire Music, even, where it's like, we don't commingle everything, getting too many like cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. It's nice. It's much more efficient, I feel like, when you have trustworthy people that are going to execute their side on deadline and at a professional level, right? So that was a kind of a cool thing. But just so happy to hear that tune, and it's so much fun to go back and watch that stuff and again see the evolution and the twists and turns of that tune. And I struggled big time with that. And I talked briefly about the direction of it, but just the playing aspect of it. Like, it was funny, again, having I certainly supplied the most complete demo, and I also supplied the tune that changed the most. Very weird. And on the contrary, this last tune I want to show you was John Check's tune called Weeknight Warrior, which, no offense, John, if you see this, but that was probably the most incomplete demo, and it came together super fast once we got in there with like not much change. I think the double time section at the end, I don't think that was part of the plan, and we just kind of all vibed on that and rode that out. So this last tune I want to show you, John Check's tune. What's cool about this footage too is the footage that I got from my iPhone, not from my GoPro, is of the final take. So I was able to sync that up in Final Cut with the album version of it. So what you're hearing is what you'll actually get to hear on streaming, or if you buy the vinyl. I was lucky to kind of capture that take, so I was able to get that all synced up. I had posted this video on my Instagram page right around the time that we recorded this, and a lot of people liked it, so had a little bit of interest as far as what I was doing with this group from that. So I'm going to repost it on Instagram with the synced audio, but it's also here to kind of close out this video. Really fun to go back and watch this. I'm really proud of this record, as I think all of us are. For me personally, it's cool because it's a little bit of a departure from the music that I've been doing in recent years, which is a little bit more on the experimental, I'd say on the outskirts of traditional music, maybe. I don't know. I listen to some pretty out stuff, so maybe not go that far. But definitely not your typical music. If you look at my solo stuff, which is, I'll say it again, under my name, Anthony Pecora, on all of the streaming services, as well as under the music tab on reflectionconcept.com. It's a stark contrast of this type of groove-oriented thing. But this was the stuff that I fell in love with at a younger age. I really encourage you to give it a listen on the streaming or to purchase some vinyl. There'll be links below to get to all that stuff. And I really appreciate you listening to me talk about this, share my perspective on it, share some of my vantage point in not only getting to the session, but executing the session and really walking away from the session with a sense of pride. I think that's important in music. Furthering old friendships, getting new friendships. And Dan, who played some guitar, I think he's actually playing guitar on Weeknight Warrior, and he did a little bit of engineering and producerial work. Dan, if I'm butchering your last name, I think it's Mahouk or Mihuc. Dan was the man. Like, he came through, and I had never met Dan, and we became pretty fast friends, and I respected him instantly as a musician and someone that did a really good job guiding us through some things. I didn't know that we needed that, but Dan provided a really nice kind of support system for us there, as far as some guidance stuff. So like getting Dan and Ed on sax, like new friend, and Nels really above, not to play favorites at all, but like just being the rhythm section partner, the bond that we had. I think back so fondly to that time. So I really appreciate you allowing me to just talk about this stuff, for listening to it, and giving me the opportunity to kind of go back through this stuff and show it off. Please go give Nay Players Naysaying a listen on all the streaming stuff. And you can check out the vinyl pre-order again on reflectionconcept.com, right on the homepage or under the music tab. Thank you so much. I'm going to try not to make it another 2-week span before I get another video out, but you never know. Life might take over. So I appreciate you listening. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
perfect sound.
If we're gonna
I
fade
would
that.
say
That track's good.
that was bomb.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
I don't think
You know?
there's any reason to do it
No.
again.
No.
I'm cool with that.
I'm good.
I lost the knob off
Sounded
my
great.
back.
Bass drum, keys are good. I mean,
Oh man, that's on the bomb.